How are we doing, everyone? Look at the date. I don't even know what the day is. Midday. I don't even know what the date is. Right, so it's Wednesday, the 16th of January 2019. I'm doing the school run. I look like I got dressed in the dark today. I'm a bit scruffy. I'm a little bit. And I just want to talk about this one quickly. I say quickly. It depends how long it takes me to get down the road, I suppose. So, but living in London, anyone who lives anywhere else in the country, admittedly, wages elsewhere in the country. Even here, I can say it's really. I mean, if you say anywhere else in live here, it goes with bad. I was a place called Rat Half in that direction, right? And you caught me live. There we go. And I was waiting for a bus, and next to the bus stop is okay. Thought while I'm waiting for the bus, I've got about. I'll have a look in the window. What I can do about that? Have a look in the window, and that these estate agents assume that we have houses. Then £2,000. Okay, fine. It's £250,000. That's the average cheap price for a house in London. Fine, you know. And then there was one at 300,000, 400,000, 750,000. And at this point, I'm thinking, this isn't even money. This is not even money. These are just numbers that are on paper that I'll never see, ever. Alright, so it's like Monopoly money. It's not real. You know, then I thought to myself, let me have a look at the renting section. Oh, you love this. You'll love this. Now, I am considering myself to be quite lucky because I rent from a housing association and I'm not renting privately from a private landlord. I'm quite fortunate for what I've got. So, why can't you do it? Because I don't want to. So, I had a look at the rent. Alright, per calendar month, PCM, renting. You're gonna love this. Alright, everywhere is £1,600. £1,600 to rent for a 2-bedroom flat. £1,600. Now, if you were stuck for somewhere to live, you know, and you had to pay £1,600, most people, to be fair, don't earn £1,600 per month, let alone have the capacity to spend it and have nothing else for the rest of the. It's not real. No, it's not. It's not real. You know. And then I went over to the next section, which wasn't per calendar month. It wasn't you to rent, you know, your own place. The others were rent, but as a house share. So you rent a room in a house with a communal bathroom, communal kitchen, communal garden, and living arrangement, living area. You may have an ensuite. How much was that? For a room in a house that you share with other smelly bastards. I'll tell you how much this was. At least £600. My rent for a 2-bedroom flat isn't even £600. So I'm very lucky. Very lucky, to be fair. And living in London has just got to a point where it's just too expensive. If we lost our place and we couldn't rent from the housing association anymore and we had to rent privately, it would never happen. I'd never ever be able to afford it. And even if I did, it would only be the rent because I'd have no money for anything else. Living in London is expensive, no matter where you live. You know, you could live on the outskirts, you could live in the centre. You know, north, south, east or west, London is expensive. And I want to know the actual reason why. I don't want to hear someone say it's because it's the capital. I know it's the capital, I live here. But why? I'm trying to find other logical reasons as to why London is so expensive to live in. Good afternoon, Roy. You know, so why can't you ever do a uniform video? Liam Cope. So I'm going to get back to that. Touch on that now. I'm not going to do a video on uniforms, because I'm not going to expose, although everyone pretty much knows what company I work for anyway, the company I work for, because it means then talking about the company and blah blah blah. Mac, how are we doing? Asians are coming in and renting property, bailiffs are busy, overpopulation. You may be right there. I mean, I tell you what, there's about 5 or 6 miles that way in a place called Elephant and Castle. Many of you may know it. All right. There is a massive, massive, massive housing development going on. Huge. In Camberwell, about 5 miles that way, there's housing development going on. And I know that a majority of those new builds are being bought by Chinese and Russian investors, where they then let them out at an even greater cost. I know that. You see, I know that in some of those places, for a 2-bedroom flat, if you was to buy it, is no less than £400,000 for a shit area in South London. Why is it that expensive? Does it have to be that expensive? I feel your pain. $1,500 to $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment for me. And Steve, what's going on? So it's expensive. It's everywhere, and it's driving me nuts. You know, then people start wondering, why are there so many homeless people on the street? You know, because I guarantee some of them, not all of them, some of them could have been working but not earning enough to pay rent. And then what happens is, because they have nowhere to live but they still have a job, they end up living on the street or living on people's sofas. They end up depressed. You know, then they might not be able to afford to get to work for whatever the reason may be, and then they end up homeless. And then they may still be working, and then they may end up losing their job. You know, so everything goes up, and I say, yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, I want to know, why is everything so expensive? So what I'm suggesting is, in order to help people along, in order for things not to be so expensive, all right, what we need to do is come up with some sort of solution. And what is the solution? Why are things so expensive? The cost of fuel is one of them. I've done video on this before. The cost of petrol, the cost of diesel, the cost of coal, gas, fuel in general. Fuel is expensive. You know, fuel. So, you know, companies need to, you know, use fuel. No matter what the company is, they need to pay their wages. You know, so they need to, on top of paying their own staff, make money on top of that. And the only way they're going to make money on top of that is by raising the price of stuff. It's an ongoing vicious cycle. It's not great. But what can we do as an idea to help reduce the cost of living in a city? You know, it's nuclear war, but not near me. Yeah, I kind of hear that. We don't want a fallout kind of situation. Fallout, nuclear, you know. I don't know. It just gets to me a little bit. It really does. Because, like I said, I'm quite fortunate for living where I'm living. You know, but even then, it's a struggle. It is. Even transit, getting into London is expensive. Even if you don't live in London and you work here, getting into London is expensive. It is absolutely astronomical, the amount of people that have homes that are poor. It is. I mean, I work full time. I work 6 to 7 days a week. You know, a lot of people look at me because I'm clean, relatively well presented, that I work full time, that I have an okayish car and somewhere to live, that I have a lot of money. No, in fact, I'm far from it. You know, I'm technically classed as poor, because all of my money goes on providing for my kids. You know, we're borderline on the poverty line. Borderline, because I'm actually earning on a regular basis. It's just not a lot. Expensive and so overcrowded. You see, I wouldn't say overcrowded, because one person's definition of overcrowded is different to another person's. I don't believe we're overcrowded for 1 second. I don't believe so. You know, it's just, I mean, if my definition of me being in a place that's overcrowded is walking down here and saying, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, every 5 seconds. Nah, I wouldn't say we're overcrowded. I'd say we're just overcharged for everything. It's greed, I think, is what it comes down to. It's down to greed. Now, if we can help change people's perspectives and what they think they need to be earning if they own a company. You know, I mean, a friend of mine, he's actually built another house. He's built a house next to an existing house that he already owns, and it has cost him a fair amount of money to build. And obviously, at some point, he's going to sell it or rent it, and he's going to want to make money in order to break even and make a profit on that. I understand that. You see, now I understand how much rent is the minimum that he's going to have to rent that out for. He's going to have to rent it out for a minimum of $1,200 per month. Minimum. You see, up to a maximum of 16, 17 or 18, depending on what the estate agent recommends. Again, that's not down to him, that's just down to numbers, because he needs to make back what he's spent out. You see, it's down to that's not down to greed, because he needs to try and recoup what his losses were. You see, whether or not he drops rent at any point is down to him. I don't know. You see, but London is a funny place. It really is when it comes to greed. We've got a bridge called the Dartford Crossing, and in order to get across the Dartford Bridge, you need to pay the Dart charge. It's a toll bridge, and originally the Dart charge was brought in to literally pay for the cost of the bridge. The amount of traffic that went across that bridge in the first 3 years of that bridge being built paid for the bridge and some. And it just so happened that it made so much money, they said, nah, we're not going to get rid of the Dart charge. We're going to carry on people for going over this bridge. And it's made millions and millions and millions of pounds every year. That money could have gone to London, as in the London mayor, and he could have divided that money up between councils or this, that and the other. You know, whatever. It could have gone back into infrastructure, could have gone back into transport, could have gone back into anything. But no, the money, as far as I'm aware, went into the coffers of the local council. You know, for those who don't know, the coffers are pockets. Skyrocket, you know, your pockets. So it's a funny one. It really is. Let me see what the time is. The time is 7 minutes past. I think councils need to build more affordable homes for people on a lower wage. All this $1,450 for rent and hire is a bunch of crap. It is ridiculous. It is. I'll tell you why it's ridiculous, because where I live, I've said this before, my rent is less than £600 a month. All right, I'm on the 3rd floor where I live, and the woman that lives directly beneath me, lovely lady, the exact same property, the same layout, just 1 floor below, she's charged £900 per month. And apparently that's under the affordable rent scheme. I can't afford £900 a month. How on earth is that affordable to a small family? Especially when one parent could be working. That's not affordable at all. It's not. That's not affordable at all. So anyway, London is expensive. You let me know how we can try and combat this thing. We'll try and put something together, maybe put some sort of petition together to, you know, lower the cost of living in London. You know, it is absolutely staggering why things are so expensive. Drop a comment below if it's your first time joining me. I do rant like this all the time. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the dislike button, but tell me why. Hit the notification